Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I never liked shopping late at night. Never felt right, never sat well in my gut. But motherhood has a way of shoving your comfort aside. When your baby runs out of formula at 11:30 p.m. and the morning promises chaos, you don't get choices. You get responsibilities. That night felt like any other. My daughter was finally asleep, her tiny fingers curled into fists on the baby monitor. My husband, Marcus, was glued to his headset in the living room, deep into some war game with his buddies. The soft rat-tat-tat of gunfire and laughing voices echoed faintly through the hallway. "I'll be back in 10, I said, grabbing my keys from the hook near the door. "Just formula?" he mumbled, eyes never leaving the screen. "Just formula," I nodded. "Text me if anything gets weird." He waved without looking. I wish I'd made him look at me. Wish I'd kissed my daughter's forehead again before stepping out. Clearwater Supercenter was barely a 5-minute drive. We were stationed just outside the base, and the town was a weird blend. Military folks like us and locals who looked like they'd been born under the same bar lights they'd die beneath. Some waved when you passed. Some stared too long and too still, like animals clocking unfamiliar movement. The parking lot was mostly empty, bathed in the sickly yellow glow of overhead lights that hummed like old fluorescent tubes on their last breath. I passed 2 pickups parked head-to-head, their drivers motionless. Staring. Just staring. I slowed as I rolled by, then pulled into a spot under one of the lights that still worked. As I stepped out, the air hit me. Heavy, humid, laced with distant honeysuckle and something faintly sour. The store looked like it always did after hours. Hollow. Echoes of distant beeps. Night shift staff moving like ghosts. I nodded at the greeter, an older man with cloudy eyes who didn't say a word, just blinked slowly. The aisles were nearly dead. A frazzled mom in the cereal aisle was wrestling with 2 shrieking toddlers. Down by frozen foods, a teenager in a hoodie swayed on his feet, eyes glazed. Near the pharmacy, an elderly man was having a full conversation with someone who wasn't there. I moved quickly toward the baby aisle, past bleach and pet shampoo. That part of the store always felt calmer, familiar, like routine had soaked into the floor tiles. And then I saw it. A dress. Soft pink with tiny embroidered flowers and delicate ruffled sleeves. A 12-month size, just right for when Lily would start toddling around come spring. I picked it up without thinking, thumb brushing the fabric. It was dumb, maybe, but that dress felt like a tiny light in the haze of sleepless nights and bottle warmers. That's when I felt it, not heard. Felt. The weight of eyes on me. The kind of gaze that crawls across your skin and sets off something deep in the lizard part of your brain. I turned slightly. He stood halfway down the aisle. Just stood there. Still. Too still. No cart, no vest, no shopping basket. Just a man. Pale. Stringy brown hair framing a gaunt face. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Clothes sagging off him like he hadn't changed in days. A faded graphic tee clung to his frame under a stained hoodie. The smell of sweat and something fermented hit me like a slow punch. He wasn't browsing. He wasn't moving. He was staring directly at me, unblinking. I laughed nervously, too loud for the empty space. These baby clothes are way too cute, right? He didn't move, didn't speak. Just that same stare. And then, then, he smirked. But not the kind that says, yeah, cute dress. It was the kind of smile that comes with a secret, like he knew something I didn't, like he was waiting. I swallowed. Something in my gut twisted hard, like a warning signal rising too fast. Every instinct screamed move, but my limbs betrayed me. Just for a second. I need formula, I muttered, clutching the dress to my chest as I sidestepped. I turned left. Stupid move. The registers were to the right. But I wasn't thinking. I was reacting. I drifted toward the soda aisle, heartbeat hammering, grabbed a 12-pack of Coke Zero with shaking hands, balanced it awkwardly with the can of formula I'd finally spotted at the end of the last aisle. No cart. I hadn't thought to grab one, and now I was holding too much, moving too slow. And somewhere behind me, I swear I heard footsteps. I just needed to get the hell out. I gripped the Coke and formula tighter, trying not to show it, trying to act like I wasn't seconds away from bolting. As I turned toward the front of the store, I heard it. That soft, dragging shuff-shuff of footsteps on linoleum. My skin went cold. Not running. Not rushing. Just following. I glanced over my shoulder. It was him, 20 feet behind, keeping pace. Not looking at the shelves, not pretending to shop, just walking in step with me. His eyes found mine and didn't break away. There was something in them. Something challenging, like he wanted me to know. I see you. I'm not done. I swallowed hard and beelined to the 10 items or less lane. He followed. I tried not to look back, but I felt him as he stopped right behind me. He had nothing. No cart, no basket. Then casually, like he was just another tired shopper, he grabbed a Snickers bar from the impulse rack and tossed it behind my items. His hand brushed too close to mine when he did. The cashier was a teenage girl, barely old enough to drive. Purple hair fading to copper, Tay stitched on a crooked name tag. She greeted me like nothing was wrong, just another night shift. I forced a smile. My jaw was clenched so tight it ached. My heartbeat roared in my ears. I could feel the sweat sliding down my spine. And then that smell hit me again. Rank sweat, stale beer, and something sourer like spoiled meat. I flinched, took a tiny step closer to the woman in front of me. He did too. Then I felt it. A brush against my left hip. Soft. Intentional. Too slow to be accidental. My body locked. Breath caught. I turned slightly, my voice low and sharp. Hey. He didn't meet my eyes this time. Mumbled something I couldn't catch. His hand was dangling suspiciously close to his groin, and that same twisted smirk played on his lips, like he was enjoying it. My face burned. I looked forward again. Tay was scanning my Coke like nothing had happened. Then, pinch, hard, my right butt cheek. I gasped and spun around, louder now. Hey, stop touching my ass. Everything stopped. Tay froze mid-scan. The woman in front of me turned, wide-eyed. A man near the coin machine paused with a handful of quarters. For a few seconds, the store held its breath. Is there a problem? Tay asked, her voice thin and uncertain. I nodded, voice shaking. Yeah, this guy. He grabbed me. Twice. He's been following me since the baby aisle. I don't know him. The man blinked slowly. No fear. No shame. Just indifference. He looked at me like I'd inconvenienced him. Tay hesitated, then stood up a little straighter. Sir, I need you to step back or I'll call security. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. That weight, that stare. God, it felt like it drilled into my spine even when I turned away to swipe my card. My fingers fumbled. I dropped my wallet. Tay bagged my stuff half-heartedly, her eyes flicking between us. I grabbed the bag with one hand, clutching my keys with the other. I didn't run. Not yet. Walk, I told myself. Calm. Don't show fear. The second those sliding doors opened and I stepped into the cool night air, I let out a breath. 10 steps out. Then I heard them. Bam. Doors flying open behind me. No voice, no call. Just movement. I didn't look back. I knew. I ran. My car was 2 rows down. I dug into my purse, fumbling for the fob. Click. Lights flashed. I bolted, legs burning. Behind me, footsteps, heavier now, faster. I heard his breathing, labored, angry, close. I hit the unlock and yanked the door open, flinging the bag onto the passenger seat. I slammed the door shut just as he reached me. Bang. He threw himself onto the hood. Both hands splayed, face twisted with rage. His mouth opened in a scream, but the words were garbled, lost in fury. I screamed back, jammed the key into the ignition with trembling hands. The engine roared. No seatbelt. No hesitation. I slammed the car into reverse and floored it. He rolled off the hood, hit the pavement hard, limbs flailing. I didn't care, I didn't even look. I peeled out of the lot and didn't stop until my tires hit the driveway. I parked crooked, nearly jumped out before the car stopped. My legs gave a little as I stumbled into the house. Marcus looked up from the couch. "Babe?" Then he saw my face. What happened? I told him everything. The aisle, the touching, the sprint to the car. My voice cracked halfway through. He was on his feet instantly, pacing, fists clenched. "I should have gone with you," he said over and over. "I should have." "I just want the doors locked," I whispered. "Please. All of them. Close the blinds." That night I didn't sleep. I didn't file a report either. I know I should have. But Clearwater's like 100 other towns near military bases. The kind of place where women get followed, touched, threatened, and nothing happens. That guy would be gone before a cop even looked at the footage, if they even bothered. Now, there's a stun gun in my diaper bag, mace on my keychain, a knife in the glove box, and I never, ever go back to that Walmart alone at night. Sometimes I still see him in my sleep. That greasy hair, that dead-eyed stare, that smirk, like he'd already picked me out and was sure I wouldn't fight back. Sometimes I wonder if I'd walked slower, if I'd hesitated just 5 seconds longer, if I would have made it home at all. And worse, I wonder how many didn't. I never used to feel uneasy walking alone. I grew up in the middle of a big, busy city. Sirens, buses, street vendors, always someone yelling about something. Noise was comfort, crowds were safety. I'm 16, and for the past couple years, I've been running errands by myself, grabbing snacks, supplies, whatever. Our neighborhood's pretty normal. 3 grocery stores within 5 minutes, and a Walmart I've been going to since I was a kid. It's where I get school stuff, skincare, sometimes just wander the aisles when the house gets too loud. It always felt familiar, predictable, harmless, until that Sunday. My parents were both working overtime shifts, mom at the ER, dad running deliveries. My little brother had a game across town with his rec team, so I had the house to myself. I figured I'd knock out some laundry, maybe catch up on chemistry notes. Around 2 p.m., I noticed my school ID lanyard was still snapped in half from Friday. School's strict about wearing them. No ID, no entry. Plus, I was almost out of body wash. Just small things, nothing urgent. I didn't even think to text anyone where I was going. I just threw on a hoodie and jeans, stuffed a few bills in my pocket, tied my hair back in a sloppy bun, and headed out. It was a bright, sunny day. Not hot, just that warm, late afternoon breeze that makes everything feel calm. I stopped by the BP on the corner and grabbed a Sprite, sipping as I walked. One earbud in, just enough to hear if someone shouted or if a car got too close. Moms were pushing strollers. A group of kids chased each other across the sidewalk. It felt like every other Sunday. Inside Walmart, the cold air hit me the way it always did, sharp, familiar. I walked past the greeter, gave her a quick nod, and headed straight for the school supplies section near the back. I knew exactly where they kept the lanyards, by the pencil boxes and plastic organizers. I moved slow, dragging my fingers across the hanging packs, looking for one that didn't scream elementary school. That's when I saw him, at the end of the aisle, standing like he had no real reason to be there. He looked like someone's tired grandpa, mid-50s, maybe a bit older. Scruffy gray beard, brown t-shirt a little stretched at the collar, jeans that had seen better days. He had glasses hanging from the neck of his shirt, the kind people forget they're even wearing. He was average height, but something about him made the air feel different. Not dangerous, just off. He smiled as I walked past. Not a creepy smile, just too warm, like he already knew me. "Hey there," he said, voice a little too cheerful. I gave a polite nod and half smile. "Hi. Beautiful day, huh?" "Yeah, it is," I replied, eyes already scanning the racks again. "Just doing some shopping," he added. I mumbled "me too" and stepped a bit farther down the aisle. Harmless, right? People talk, especially older folks. Still, there was something weird about how he clarified he was shopping. Like he thought I needed to know. Like he'd rehearsed it. I grabbed a plain black lanyard, nothing fancy, and started heading toward personal care for body wash. I tried to shake the weirdness off. It wasn't worth overthinking. The store was busy, bright. Nothing bad happens in fluorescent lighting, right? About 5 minutes later, I was in the soap aisle, comparing brands, trying to decide between something citrusy or lavender. I held up a bottle of Dove and started reading the label, stalling more than anything. That's when I felt it again. That shift in air. I looked up, and there he was. Same man, same slow walk, same smile. He didn't say anything this time. Just walked past real slow, not browsing, not even glancing at the shelves. His eyes met mine and stayed there, like he was studying me. I kept my focus locked on the bottle in my hand, pretending I cared deeply about its ingredients. But my heartbeat was getting louder in my ears. My gut tightened in that way it does when you know something's off but can't explain it. I didn't move until he was out of sight. This time, my stomach twisted like it knew something I didn't. I can't explain it. It was just a look. He hadn't touched me, hadn't raised his voice. But the way his eyes locked onto mine, it wasn't casual. It wasn't friendly. It felt calculated, like he'd chosen me. I glanced around the aisle, trying to stay calm. A woman in her 60s was scanning shampoo bottles. A tall teen with a backpack browsed the deodorant section, earbuds in, head down. I reminded myself of what Mom always said, trust your gut, even if it feels silly. And my gut, it was practically screaming. I slid my phone from my hoodie pocket and texted Maya, my best friend since 3rd grade. "Hey, I think some guy's following me in Walmart. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I feel super weird." She responded immediately. "Where are you?" "Stay put, I'm calling, don't leave the store." I adjusted my earbud, pretending to check the time, and slowly drifted into the next aisle, face wash and moisturizers. I figured maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe the guy actually needed body wash too. I tried to breathe, tried to move slow and casual, normal. But when I turned the corner at the end of the aisle, he was there again, waiting. He stood with one hand in his pocket, leaning slightly against the shelf like he'd been expecting me. "Excuse me, young lady," he said, his voice coated in this thick, too smooth tone that made my skin crawl. I froze. My grip tightened on the plastic shopping basket. Yeah? Can I just say something real quick?" He smiled wide, teeth yellowing, eyes too eager. "Sure," I said, hesitant. "You're very beautiful." The words hit like a punch. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my neck. I forced a tight smile. "Thanks," I mumbled, already stepping sideways. "You married?" I blinked, thrown. Married? I was 16, wearing a hoodie. My hair was a mess. I didn't even have lip balm on. "No," I said, trying to laugh it off. "I'm in high school." He chuckled like we were sharing some inside joke. "Me neither," he said. And then, after this awful pause, added, "Got a boyfriend?" My throat tightened. I didn't. But something inside me screamed not to say that. Not to give him that space. "Yeah," I lied, quickly. "Yeah, I do." There was a long pause. He stared at me, head tilted slightly like he was dissecting my face, trying to catch the lie. I looked away, praying he'd just leave. And then, like a miracle, someone stepped into the aisle. Another guy, maybe 17 or 18, shaggy brown hair, black hoodie, faded jeans. I'd seen him earlier near the cologne section. He walked up right beside me and said, "Yeah, she's with me." He slipped between me and the man like he'd done it 100 times, like it was natural. Then he glanced down at me with a calm smile, like we were a couple just grabbing stuff before a movie night. The older man's smile faltered. "Oh, I figured," he said, backing up half a step, his eyes darting around now. "Well, good luck, you two." He turned and walked away quickly, disappearing around the corner. I stared at the stranger beside me, my mouth half open. "Thank you," I whispered. He gave a soft smile, his voice lower now. "I saw the way he was talking to you. Just wanted to make sure you were good." We walked toward the front together. He didn't press me with questions or ask for anything. He made small talk about the weather, mentioned how school was annoying this week, said he was grabbing toothpaste for his mom. I barely heard him. My body was still tense, buzzing with fear I hadn't even processed yet. He waited in line with me, never too close, never weird. When I paid, he walked with me to the exit. The sky outside had shifted slightly, still bright, but the shadows were longer now. "Be safe, all right?" he said at the doors, raising one hand in a small wave before heading off into the lot. I stood there for a few seconds, eyes scanning. No sign of the man, no brown t-shirt, no gray beard. Still, I didn't go home the usual way. I cut across the parking lot, stayed near busier streets, glanced behind me every few blocks. I didn't put my earbud back in until I could see my own front door. I never saw him again. He never tried to contact me. No weird messages, no unmarked cars outside. But I'll never forget the way he looked at me, like he was picking something out, like I wasn't a person, just an option. I don't know what he wanted. I don't want to know. And to the man in Walmart, who waited at the end of aisles and asked if I was married, who smiled like he had plans, let's never meet again. I never thought a night shift job would change the way I looked at empty spaces. Grocery aisles, clearance racks, that sterile hum of fluorescent lights, all used to feel harmless. Familiar. But now when I pass a well-lit store after dark, I don't feel safe. I feel watched. It started back in 2019. I had just left behind a dusty little town near Tulsa and landed in Westfield, Ohio, a place so quiet at night it almost felt unfinished. I was 24, broke, and freshly laid off from a manufacturing plant that closed down overnight. No warning, no severance. Rent was 2 weeks past due and I didn't have a single soul nearby. So when a 24-hour Walmart offered me a graveyard shift as an overnight merchandiser, I didn't hesitate. It was something. It paid just enough. They handed me a blue vest, a box cutter, and a smile. Said I'd get used to it quick. I told myself I'd only stay a couple months, just till I got on my feet. But even 3 weeks in, something about that store felt wrong. It wasn't the job. The work was dull but manageable. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Most nights I had an entire section to myself, sometimes the home goods, sometimes seasonal. The routine helped. Crack boxes, stock shelves, count items, repeat. Some nights I barely thought, just let my hands do the work. But then came the sounds. Not loud, not at first, just faint, subtle. The kind of thing you'd only notice at 3 a.m. when you're alone between racks of t-shirts and fleece hoodies and the only other sound is your own breath. Taps, then dragging, a soft shuffle, like something brushing along the ceiling above. I figured it was just mice at first. Old buildings settle, pipes knock, that kind of thing. But this Walmart was built in 2013. It wasn't old. Shouldn't creak the way it did. One night during break, I brought it up. There were 5 of us on overnights. Me, Deshaun, who worked freight, Lacey, a cashier stuck doing filing in the back office, and the 2 floor managers, Marcus and Trina. "You hear that shit too?" Deshaun asked, halfway through a ham sandwich. He leaned in close like we were swapping ghost stories around a campfire. "Thought it was just me," I said. Trina, who'd been there the longest, gave a shrug. Attic cracks. Happens after snow. Expansion, contraction. It's August, I said. She didn't say anything back, just sipped her coffee and looked at the ceiling. I'd never been up in the attic, but I knew where the hatch was, right near the break room. A metal ladder led up to a square panel that blended into the tiles. I only ever saw it opened once. Kenny, the maintenance guy, had gone up there. He came back soaked in sweat, eyes darting around like he'd seen something he couldn't unsee. "Don't go up there," he muttered when I asked about it later. "Ain't worth it." Then came the turning point. About 6 weeks in, it was a dead slow Thursday. I got assigned to frozen foods. That section usually took 2 hours, tops. Around 2:15 a.m., I was in aisle 18, stacking frozen peas and veggie medleys into the upright freezers. Half the overhead lights were dead, had been for weeks, and I'd gotten used to working in gloom. The flicker didn't bother me anymore. What did bother me was what happened when I turned around. I shut the freezer door and pivoted, and my breath caught in my throat. Someone was crouched at the end of the aisle. Just there, right by the frozen pizzas. No cart, no footsteps. Nothing to warn me. Sir?" I said, voice barely steady. The figure didn't move. "We're open, but that section's closed right now." I tried again, louder. Still nothing. Then slowly they stood. And that's when I realized it wasn't a man at all. She was older, gaunt, wearing a filthy winter coat over layers of pajama fabric that didn't match. Her hair was a tangled mess of stringy black and gray. And her eyes, those eyes weren't seeing me. Not really. They just stared through me. Then she smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was too wide, too forced, like her face didn't quite understand how expressions were supposed to work. The kind of smile you see on mannequins, not people. My stomach twisted. "You got any of the cheddar ones left?" she asked, like we were just neighbors making small talk. Her voice was weirdly calm, casual. Too casual. It made the hairs on my arms stand up. Yeah," I said, my voice cracking a little. "Middle freezer. Bottom shelf, I think." She didn't say thanks. Didn't even look at me again. Just turned, opened the door, and started pulling out boxes. 3 of them. Hugged them to her chest like they were something precious. I stepped back slowly, gripping my radio like a lifeline. I whispered, "Marcus? Trina? Someone's in frozen foods? A woman. Can someone come here?" Nothing, just static. I glanced back. She was still there. Now kneeling, rummaging through the freezer like she'd misplaced something important. Like she lived there. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around. A man stepped out from the next aisle. Older, beard tangled like a bird's nest, skin cracked and sun-leathered. He had a half-eaten bag of chips in his hand. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Where's the beer section?" he asked, voice gravelly and low. I swallowed. We don't sell alcohol at this location." He frowned, looked toward the front of the store. "Y'all really need to restock better." That's when I ran. No explanation, no detour to the manager's office. I just turned and bolted straight down the hall to the utility room. I slammed the door shut, locked it, dragged the mop bucket in front like it could actually stop someone. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone, dialed 911. The operator kept her voice calm, but I could hear the urgency behind it. "Tell me exactly what's happening." "There's people in here," I whispered. "They weren't supposed to be. They came out of nowhere. They're just in the store. And they're not acting right. I'm dispatching officers now. Stay on the line with me." That's when the doorknob started turning. Slow at first. A gentle jiggle, like someone testing it. Then harder. Then a full-on rattle. Violent. Angry. Like they were trying to rip it off. I dropped to my knees and clamped a hand over my mouth. Pressed myself behind a shelf stacked with bleach and rags. I grabbed the metal mop handle, ready to swing. Then silence. For a full minute, nothing. Just my breathing. Then footsteps. Light. Deliberate. They passed by the door and faded. I didn't move. Not until the cops arrived. When I finally stepped out, I was soaked in sweat and still gripping the mop handle like it was a baseball bat. My vest clung to me. Marcus was already talking to a cop. Trina was pacing on the phone, probably calling corporate. I pointed them toward the frozen section, toward where the strangers had been. 15 minutes later, the radios crackled. They found them, both of them, behind a locked maintenance door by the loading dock. They weren't hiding. They were sleeping. Bundled under old coats, laid out on flattened cardboard like it was a campsite. Surrounded by candy wrappers, empty chip bags, and half-eaten TV dinners. Turns out they'd been living in the store for over a year. They had a setup in the attic, a whole hidden space, accessed through a panel no one remembered behind the toy section. Blankets, expired canned food, a stolen space heater, somehow wired into the building's power. They came down at night to eat, to steal, to bathe, in the employee restroom. I quit the next morning, didn't clock out, didn't pick up my last check, left the vest on the break room chair and walked out, never looked back. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't seen them that night, or if I'd tried to confront them. Would they have hurt me? Or were they just two ghosts of the system trying to survive in the cracks? I don't know. But I do know this: if you work nights long enough, the quiet doesn't stay quiet. And some doors, they're better left unopened. I didn't expect a meltdown in the middle of my shift, but thinking back, the signs were there. Small, strange cracks in a night that was supposed to be boring. Just another dead-end Monday on Register 6 at the Walmart in Springfield. I'd been there a year and a half. Clock in, scan, clock out, rinse and repeat. Saving up for community college, though lately that dream felt like something I'd made up to survive. My register sat second from the end, right beside the dead Redbox kiosk and the cigarette counter that always smelled like stale smoke and burnt plastic. The regulars shuffled through like usual. Moms in leggings juggling toddlers and milk. Construction guys smelling like sweat and concrete, grabbing Monster and ibuprofen. Old-timers with crumpled coupons and kind smiles. I didn't talk much. Jared, the floor manager, was okay. Bit of a goofball, but harmless. Other than that, I kept my head down. Didn't need friends here, just needed the hours. Then she came in. I didn't know her name then. Trisha. Looked like someone straight out of a Facebook drama group. Bleach blonde bun so tight it had to hurt. Fake lashes like butterfly wings, and eyes too wide, too bright. Not in a friendly way, more like she was waiting to pounce. Her hoodie hung oversized off one shoulder, sleeves shoved up. Hot pink leggings, loud as hell. The kind of purse that looked like it could smuggle a raccoon. She wasn't shopping. She was storming. Cart half full, barreling down the aisle with one hand on the handle and the other holding a Bluetooth headset to her ear like it was a lifeline. She was talking. Loud, not yelling, just sharp and fast like every word had teeth. If that bitch tries me again, I swear to God. No, I don't care who she thinks she is. People better start showing me some damn respect. She stopped at my register. 7:48 p.m. 3 hours left. Evenin', I said, forcing a smile. Find everything you needed tonight? She looked straight through me like I was static on a broken screen, then raised her hand, flat palm in my face. Classic shut-up sign. She kept jabbering into her headset, not a care in the world. No, not you, she said finally, glancing at me with this slow, oily grin. Just the cashier. He's fine. Just mouthy. Then she laughed. Loud, harsh, like I was the punchline of some joke she told often. I didn't answer, just started scanning. Shampoo, Oreos, trash bags, protein bars, frozen dinners, like 12 of them. All the while she kept ranting about gas prices, her ex-husband, someone named Amber who apparently had the brain power of a toaster on defrost. She slammed a folded-up coupon on the belt like she was issuing a court summons. That's 50% off those bags, she snapped, pointing with a red acrylic nail. Don't mess it up. I nodded. Got it. The woman behind her sighed softly, barely a whisper. Tired face, 2 toddlers fidgeting in her cart, a pack of diapers already half crushed. It was the kind of sigh you let out when you've been holding in your breath for hours. But Trisha heard it. Her head whipped around so fast her headset slipped off one ear, dangling like a dead insect. You got something to say, sweetheart? She barked, voice rising like a warning siren in a storm. The mom froze, wide-eyed. No, I was just... No, you were being a rude little... Trisha stopped herself, lips twitching like she was holding back venom. Then she pivoted toward me, all fake smile and wide eyes. Can you believe people these days? No class at all. I didn't say a word. I just wanted her gone. All right, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. Your total is $34.54. She dug into that oversized purse like she was searching for buried treasure, pulling out a crumpled mess of 1s, 5s, and a handful of sticky coins. She started counting, lips moving silently, then paused and looked up at me sharp. You seem impatient. My stomach nodded. No, Mom. Take your time. She squinted, testing me. You sure about that? I nodded. Slow, careful. After a long moment, she handed over the bills. I counted, rang her up, and passed her $5.46 in change. Have a nice night, I said softly. He'll have whatever kind of night I damn well please, she snapped, snatching the coins. Don't get smart with me. Then, just as she turned, she stopped, lingered, tilted her head. You're kinda cute, actually. I blinked, startled. Thanks? You want to go out sometime? I have a girlfriend. She smiled, but her eyes didn't join in. Figures. Her voice was flat now, like it disappointed her on some cosmic level. And then she walked off, heels clicking against the scuffed tile. 10 minutes later, I heard shouting. I leaned around the register. Trisha again, arguing with Jared by customer service. Her voice bounced across the store, sharp and erratic. Something about being ignored, being treated like garbage. I couldn't hear every word, but the rage in her body language was unmistakable. Then she grabbed Jared's arm. Mom, I'm going to have to ask you to let go, he said, calm but firm. You people think you can walk all over me, she hissed. I work just as hard as you, harder. You hear me? Security was called. Phones went up. Customers recording from the frozen foods aisle, some from behind displays. Kids cried. A baby wailed. Trisha backed toward the self-checkout area, panting like a trapped animal. Her eyes darted everywhere, wild and unblinking. Y'all are gonna learn today, she shrieked. I demand respect. I deserve it. Jared stayed still, hands raised. Okay, Mom, let's just take a breath. The police are on their way. That's when she reached into her purse. Someone screamed. I dropped behind my register, heart in my throat. I didn't see what she pulled out. Maybe it was her wallet. Maybe it was worse. In that second, it didn't matter. The fear was instant, primal. 2 minutes later, Officer Daniels and his partner came in fast. Guns holstered, hands twitching at their sides, eyes locked on Trisha. They moved like they'd done this before. Mom, step away from the counter, Daniels called out. Put the bag down. Not until someone respects me, she shouted, voice cracking. Get on your knees and say it. Time froze. A toddler whimpered. A bottle of bleach rolled off a shelf, hit the floor, and split open. The chemical stink spread fast, burning sharp in the back of my throat. This is your last warning, the officer said. She stepped forward. Click zap. The taser hit her square in the chest. She dropped like a marionette with its strings cut, arms twitching, heels scraping against the tile as she screamed curses. The officers moved in, cuffed her, dragged her upright. She kept shouting, but it was just noise now. Silence followed, the kind that buzzes in your ears. The store was cleared out. Jared gave a statement. So did I. I told them everything. No one was seriously hurt, but the damage was done. Turns out Trisha had a history. 2 other incidents in the last 6 months. 1 store manager left with a broken nose. That night I stayed late to help mop up the mess. Jared told me I could clock out, but I wasn't ready. I needed to stand there. Just stand in that heavy, echoing space where everything had happened. The puddle of bleach was gone, but her voice still rang in my head, because the scariest part wasn't the taser, or the screaming, or even the threat of what might be been in that bag. It was her eyes, the certainty in them, that the world owed her something, and the terrifying truth that next time, someone like her might not stop until they take it. I never thought a late-night Walmart run would twist into something so wrong it would haunt me every time I closed my eyes. It started like any normal Saturday in Riverbend, Tennessee. Small town, quiet streets, the kind of place where porch lights flicker and nothing bad ever really happens. I'd moved here from Miami 3 months earlier, hoping to breathe again. After 4 hellish years in an abusive relationship that left me shattered, Riverbend was supposed to be my clean slate. I just turned 24, and it felt like I was waking up in someone else's skin. Someone brittle and hollowed out, but still trying to heal. I had a job at a vet clinic, a new apartment that smelled like old wood and lavender oil, and for the first time in years, no one yelling at me for existing. Chris, my boyfriend of 7 months, had been patient with me. Sweet, steady, the kind of guy who asked if he could touch my waist instead of just grabbing me. Still, there were nights I flinched in my sleep or found myself checking the locks 3 times. Healing wasn't a straight line. That night, we'd spent the day hiking the trails out past Miller's Bluff. He brought some joints and we passed one back and forth while watching the sun set behind the trees. I was buzzed just enough to feel light, like my bones weren't dragging me down for once. Chris had bought me an iPhone case as a surprise. Wrong size, of course, but it was sweet. We decided to swing by Walmart to return it and grab a few groceries. It was around 9:30 p.m. when we stepped through the sliding doors, the place nearly empty, aisles lit up under harsh fluorescence and that weird, soft hum only big box stores seem to have late at night. Chris wandered off toward the gaming section. I made my way to electronics, squatting near the bottom shelf to hunt for the right phone case. The display was its usual mess. Boxes shoved in random spots, labels worn. I was kneeling, scanning the rows, when I felt it. That low hum in my gut, the sense of being watched. I looked up. There was a man standing just a few feet away. Jeans, puffy brown jacket, maybe late 40s, clean-shaven, but something about him felt off. His eyes weren't focused on the products. They were locked on me, not checking me out, kind of staring, blank, cold, like he was watching a screen. I cleared my throat. "Hey, could I reach past you real quick?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. He didn't move, just nodded once, mechanical. His eyes never changed. I grabbed the case and stood up, heart ticking a little faster than before. Chris was still down the aisle, absorbed in whatever game had caught his eye. I shook it off and started walking his way when I felt someone behind me. Close. Too close. A woman. She came out of nowhere, pushing a stroller with a toddler and holding the hand of a little boy in Spider-Man pajamas. She brushed up against my side, too close for comfort, like we were friends. Her perfume was thick, cheap floral layered over something sour. "Wow, I haven't seen you in forever," she gushed, grabbing my arm like we were old high school buddies. Her grip was tight, too tight. I stiffened. I'm sorry, do I know you?" She leaned in. Her breath was hot, sour with something sweet rotting underneath. Chris's voice echoed from behind the display. "Babe, everything good?" I tried to turn, but her nails dug into my arm. My stomach plummeted. Something in her eyes didn't match her words. Too wide, too bright. That was when she whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. "You shouldn't have come back. Honey, you need to trust me. Come with me, now." Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a wire pulled tight. My brain scrambled to keep up, trying to stitch sense out of something that had none. Her eyes flicked around the store, scanning, calculating. I didn't know this woman, and yet something in her voice made me freeze, like I'd just stepped onto thin ice and heard the first crack. Chris was already moving toward us, confusion etched across his face. I met his eyes, wide, uncertain, and he read it instantly. He knew something was wrong too. The woman's grip tightened around my forearm, not painful, just firm. Anchoring. "Please," she said again. Lower this time. "There are 3 men watching you. Don't look now. Just walk." I barely heard her. I couldn't think. But I saw her glance over my shoulder and her expression shifted. Subtle, sharp. That was when the first real jolt of fear hit. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She tugged me gently, leading me away from electronics, past a rack of discounted baby clothes. I wanted to stop her, ask questions, run to Chris. But I didn't. Something in her calmness made it feel like I had no choice. Like if I hesitated, something terrible would happen. As we passed the end of an aisle, she leaned in close to my ear, her whisper barely audible. "They've been following you. One of them took photos when you were bent over looking at the phone cases." My stomach dropped. Cold swept through me, from the soles of my feet up to the crown of my head. I couldn't speak. My hands went numb. All I could hear was the ringing in my ears and my heart thudding like footsteps in a dark hallway. Then I saw them. 2 men walking down the aisle opposite us, cutting toward the center of the store. One was the same man from earlier. Jeans, brown coat, those vacant eyes like he wasn't really here. The other was taller, bulkier, face set like stone. His stare sliced through me. He wasn't pretending not to look. He wanted me to see him. "They're moving," the woman murmured. "You need to leave. Now." I didn't hesitate. My fight or flight kicked in and I chose flight. I bolted, shoulder checking a rack of towels on the way, and ran toward the front of the store. I heard Chris behind me, yelling something, but I didn't stop. I weaved through a pair of teenagers laughing over soda cans and nearly collided with a woman pushing a cart full of diapers. I caught a glimpse behind me. They were following, steady, calm, like they'd done this before. My eyes locked on the 2 security officers near the entrance. Relief hit me like a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I pushed harder, skidding to a stop near the self-checkout where Chris finally caught up. I must be looked feral, eyes wide, chest heaving, tears threatening. "They're here," I whispered. "They're still watching." Chris turned just enough to catch a glimpse, then grabbed my hand without a word. We ran. Didn't stop until we were out the doors, down the sidewalk, past the too quiet parking lot, and into the car parked a few blocks away. I slammed the lock button, and for a full minute, we sat in the dark, breathing like we'd sprinted out of a burning building. Only then did I realize I was shaking. Hard. We ended up in a Taco Bell drive-thru, neither of us hungry. The engine idled. My phone buzzed, forgotten in my lap. I stared out the window at nothing. My mind kept looping. Over the woman's voice, the camera flash I hadn't seen, those cold eyes. I never saw her again. Never got her name. She vanished like fog in headlights. But sometimes, when I'm walking through a store or waiting alone at a bus stop, I remember her hand gripping mine, her voice in my ear, and the men who got just a little too close. I don't know what they wanted, but I know they almost got it. And that's enough to keep me watching my back forever. It was 2:14 a.m. when I rolled into the near-deserted Walmart parking lot. The overhead lights buzzed like angry hornets, casting sickly yellow shadows over oil-slicked pavement and a handful of rogue carts rattling in the wind. My name's Ryan, 33, recently single and lately just floating through life like a ghost in my own skin. Insomnia had been chewing holes in my nights for weeks. You stop knowing what's real after a while. The hours blur. Everything feels off, like you're wandering through some half-rendered dream lit by flickering fluorescence. I wasn't even sure why I came. Maybe gum. Maybe just not wanting to be in that damn apartment again. 4 walls and echoes. 5 minutes from here, but a world away. Earlier, I'd been half watching food videos on my phone, and cinnamon rolls got lodged in my brain like a shard of glass. That gooey swirl, canned warmth. Something stupid and sweet in a world that'd gone cold. I needed that. Comfort. Even artificial. Inside, the air hit me wrong. Too cold, like walking into a freezer pretending to be a store. The overhead music was some old Top 40 remix, warped and looping faintly, like a broken record in a forgotten corner of a video game. There were only 2 other people I could see. One was a big guy squinting at USB drives like they were cursed objects. The other was the cashier. He stood behind the only open register, not moving, just watching. His hands tapped slow and rhythmically on the counter, and his smile, God, that smile, was wide and rigid, like someone had told him once what a smile should look like, but he'd never actually practiced it in a mirror. It wasn't customer service friendly. It was uncanny, frozen, like something pretending to be human. I looked away fast, probably just tired. We all were. That's what I told myself. I grabbed Orbit Spearmint in aisle 4, habit. I tucked it into my hoodie pocket, then hesitated. Buying just gum felt too deliberate, like I was performing normalcy. That's when the thought returned. Cinnamon rolls, section D8, Pillsbury, blue label, makes 8. I found them cold against my fingers. I stared at the label longer than necessary. Serves 5 to 6. Too much for one guy who hadn't shared a meal with anyone in months. I turned the canister in my hands. Put it back, picked it up again. Stared. Are you sure that's all you want to get? The voice slid in like a knife behind my ribs. I turned sharply. The cashier was standing just a few feet away, closer than he should have been, that same smile frozen on his face. I jumped. What? You seemed deep in thought, he said, voice soft, flat. No warmth, just sound. Didn't mean to startle you. I forced a small laugh. Yeah, just sugar, you know, trying to cut back. He nodded too slowly. Understandable. But sometimes, it's worth treating yourself. It wasn't the words. It was how they landed. Like he was reciting them. Too smooth, too performed. Like a bad actor who didn't understand his lines. I mumbled something and turned away. I'll think about it, I said. You already have, he replied. His voice was quieter now. Maybe just take what you want. I walked faster, breath tight in my chest, slipped into the bread aisle like it was shelter. Told myself I was overthinking. He was just being helpful. Creepy, but helpful. Still, why follow me? Why not just say all that from the register? After a minute of pacing and second-guessing, I looped back to the fridge, grabbed the damn rolls, dropped them into my basket. Let's just get out. I headed toward checkout. The register was empty, no cashier, no sound. I froze, scanned the aisles, nothing but silence. Then, did you find what you were looking for? It was behind me. I spun. He was right there, inches from me, still smiling. No footsteps, no warning, just there. Jesus, man, I gasped. You keep sneaking up on me. He tilted his head, smile never budging. You looked like someone who needed help. Am good, I said quickly. Just need to check out. He glanced at my basket like he already knew what was inside. Those the big ones? Extra icing? I nodded, heart pounding. He whispered, good choice. Then, like nothing had happened, he drifted back to the register. No footsteps, no sound, like he'd floated there. I tapped my card. The machine hesitated. No chip error, no beep. Just a long, unnatural pause. Too long, he said, almost gleefully. System must be. Lagging. The register screen flickered. The lights buzzed louder. Something in me clenched. Every hair on my body stood up. Something wasn't right. And deep inside, a voice I hadn't heard in years whispered, "Run." "Lee, he'll just come back tomorrow," I said, setting the basket down like it was something fragile, something cursed. He didn't blink. Not once. "Sir," he said, tone clipped, firm, "you've already made your choice." Something in my spine seized up. I started backing away, slow at first. Then I turned and ran. The exit doors didn't open. I waved my arms like a madman, slapping at the motion sensor. Nothing. Just my reflection in the glass, pale and stretched by panic. Then came the footsteps. Slow, measured, tile tapping under rubber soles. "Sir," he called behind me, voice too calm. "Please don't touch the glass. We wouldn't want you to get hurt now, would we?" I spun. "Back off, man. I don't know what your deal is." His smile never changed. "You know exactly what I want." I bolted again, past cold meats, past the pharmacy glowing in sterile blue. My ankle gave under me, twisted, but I didn't stop. Pain was better than whatever was behind me. I dove behind a wall of bulk toilet paper, stacks of plush white wrapped in plastic. The silence that followed felt staged. Like a theater, lights dimmed, waiting for the next act. "Ryan." I froze. He said my name. I never told him my name. He said it like he knew it. Like he'd known it longer than I had. "You came here because you needed something," he said, his voice low, soft like a lullaby meant for children who never wake up. "But it wasn't cinnamon rolls, was it?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I crawled across the floor toward the garden center doors. Locked. My palms slapped uselessly against the glass. Outside, a man stood. Same vest, same smile, unmoving, like a reflection, like a copy. Then behind me again, that voice. "This isn't about the store. This is about you." I turned. My breath caught. "Why me?" I choked out. "What the hell do you want?" His grin widened, impossibly. "We get a few like you," he said, stepping closer, drifting, hollow, hoping sugar will fill the spaces sadness carved out. He reached into his vest pocket, pulled out my canister, the Pillsbury label, blue, dented, but now leaking. He dropped it at my feet. It burst open with a wet pop. Thick, reeking goo splattered my shoes. It wasn't frosting. It was darker, slicker, and something inside it moved. I turned and limped away, every step stabbing through my twisted ankle. Back to the front, I whispered like a prayer. The register glowed. The screen read, "Approved." Then, through the speakers, "Ryan, we hope you found what you were looking for. Come again soon." The doors hissed open. I ran. Didn't stop running until I was inside my car. Doors locked, engine on, hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. I looked back. Walmart stood there, blank and still like a corpse in makeup. But I know better. I haven't been back. Haven't slept much either. The cinnamon roll canister? Still in my fridge. Leaking. Waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Just laid there staring at the ceiling, hearing my heart echo back the fear. By morning, I told myself it was stress. A breakdown. Insomnia-fueled hallucination. People lose it in weirder ways, right? I called Mark, my buddy. Told him I was feeling off. He offered to swing by. I told him no. At noon, I opened the fridge. The canister was swollen, bulging at the seams. Something inside pressing out. Thick syrup oozed from cracks I didn't remember. The label? Torn. Shredded like claws had raked through it. I wrapped it in 3 garbage bags, tossed it in the outdoor bin. By sunset, it was back. Same shelf, same spot, same ooze. That night I heard tapping from the kitchen, steady, deliberate, like fingers drumming. I stayed in bed, didn't breathe. The next day, I drove out to an empty lot with lighter fluid and gasoline, set the canister in the dirt and lit it. It didn't burn. It screamed. A high-pitched wail, like pressure escaping, but alive. like pain compressed into sound. It echoed in my skull long after the goo had stopped twitching. And for a second, I saw it, reflected in my car window. His smile. That fixed, too wide grin. I left town that night, packed light, cash only, no cards, no paper trail. Now it's motels, never more than 2 nights. Always checking the fridge before I sleep. But wherever I go, there's always a Walmart. Always open, always lit. And sometimes, when I pass one after dark, I see him, standing in the window, still smiling, still waiting. And I know, one day, I'll have to go back. Because those cinnamon rolls, they're still in me. And they're hungry now. Idle hands are the devil's playground, my mom used to say when she caught us doing something stupid. My brother sneaking out his window at midnight, or me, texting boys during dinner like I was slick. I never gave the phrase much thought. Not until that afternoon in late spring 2017. That day turned something regular into something that still knots my stomach, even now. I was 20 then, renting a shoebox apartment just outside downtown North Willow, Washington. A city that always looked like it belonged in a postcard until you looked too close. From a distance, you'd see snow-dusted mountains and pine trees lining the hills, but on the ground, it was strip malls, shuttered diners, rising crime, and meth heads sleeping behind dumpsters. Pretty in pictures. Ugly in truth. Lena was a recent friend, 22, someone I'd met through a mutual at a dive bar 2 months back. She had this deadpan, bone-dry sense of humor that matched mine so perfectly. It was like we'd grown up in the same sarcastic household. Long black hair, piercings that glinted when she smiled, and the same thrifted black wardrobe that made people assume we were either twins or up to no good. Maybe both. That afternoon was just lazy. Sky was overcast but soft, maybe 65 degrees. We'd been lounging in her cramped apartment, replaying old chopped episodes while thumbing through a battered Stephen King paperback and pretending we weren't just killing time. She looked up at one point and asked, "Hey, you cool driving me to Binstone Walmart? Off Argus?" I frowned. That one? Isn't that where that guy got arrested for selling bootleg iPhones out of a stroller? She laughed. Yup. My girl's working today. Sam. Said she's got a break in 15 and I told her I'd swing by for a smoke. I'd never met Sam in person, but had seen the way Lena smiled when she talked about her. It was soft, different. I said yes, even though I hated that side of North Willow. There was something off about it. Not just the boarded-up liquor stores or the junkies twitching outside gas stations. It felt watched, like you were walking into a room where someone had just stopped talking about you. Still, I backed out of her cracked driveway, trying to shake off the weird pressure blooming under my collarbone. "You good?" Lena asked, lighting her vape. "Yeah, just, got a weird feeling." "Maybe it's gas," I said, trying to lighten it with a smile. She smirked. "You're hilarious." But it wasn't gas. And it wasn't nerves either. It was something deeper, a pit of the stomach thing. The kind you can't name yet, but your body feels before your brain can catch up. The Binstone Walmart lot was packed, weirdly full for a Wednesday. We had to park near the back, past a rusted-out shopping cart corral and a cracked lamppost that buzzed like a flytrap. As we walked toward the entrance, I clocked a beat-up silver sedan near the front. Hood up. 3 guys leaned against it like they were on a smoke break, or a stakeout. They didn't catcall, didn't speak, just stared. And not the kind of stare you could brush off. The kind that makes your bones stiffen, like they weren't looking at us, but through us, like they already knew something we didn't. I nudged Lena. "You see that?" "Yeah," she said low, eyes flicking but not stopping. "Ignore it." But her shoulders tensed. I saw her hand slip into her coat pocket, fingers curling around something. Pepper spray, probably. Or a key between her knuckles. Either way, we both felt it now. That thing. That something. And it was waiting. We brushed past the guys without a word and ducked into the store, the automatic doors groaning open like they didn't want to let us in. The moment we stepped into the fluorescent hum of Walmart, I felt like I could breathe again, for a second anyway. Sam was waiting near the customer service desk, leaning against a counter and scrolling her phone. She looked up and smiled, warm and easy. She had this boyish haircut that worked for her, a chipped tooth when she grinned too wide. "Hey, spooky twins," she called out, laughing. Lena lit up and wrapped her in a hug. We all walked back outside, to the smoking area near the garden center exit. It was this sad patch of cement boxed in by chain link and half-dead ferns. Lena lit a cigarette and handed me one. I didn't usually smoke, but my nerves were still dancing, so I took it. As we talked, I kept glancing toward the parking lot. The silver sedan was still there, still parked too close to the entrance, hood up like before. The same 3 guys still just hanging around. No grease on their hands, no jumper cables, just standing there, watching people walk in and out like they were casing the place. Thing is, people kept offering to help. A guy in a delivery van slowed down. An older couple paused to chat. Even one of the Walmart employees pushing carts stopped to say something. Every time, I heard the same line float across the lot. "Nah, our buddy's on the way with cables," over and over. But that hood never came down. Eventually, Sam flicked her cigarette and hugged Lena again. "Text me later, yeah?" We hung back by the exit for a minute, figuring out what to do next. Coffee, maybe a thrift stop, then started heading back toward my car. It was parked far out near the back row, where the lamplight didn't quite reach, and the spaces felt like no man's land. We were halfway there when I heard it. "Hey!" a voice called. I turned. The guy who'd been in the center, the tall one, clean-cut, probably mid-20s, was walking toward us. Not fast, but not hesitant either. Confident. Casual. Like we knew him. "You two got jumper cables?" he asked, smiling like we were sharing some inside joke. I hesitated. "Yeah, I got some in the trunk. Want me to pull around?" He shook his head. "Nah, how about I just ride with you to the car? I'll show you where it's at." I blinked. "I know where it's at," I said. "It's right there. Front row." He smiled again. Too wide this time, his teeth gleaming a little too white. There was something wrong with that smile. Like he wasn't trying to convince me. Like he was enjoying this. Lena was quiet beside me, jaw tight. Her hand slipped back into her coat pocket. He tried again. "Yeah, but I could guide you while you drive up. Make it easier." "No thanks," I said, sharper now. "I'm good." He kept walking with us, matching our pace. "Come on. It's a long walk for me. You'll get there faster anyway." That was when the panic hit me. Not sharp, just this slow rising pressure in my ribs. I could see my car now, but it looked so far away. And there wasn't a soul around us. Just empty cars, wind whispering through the lot. I stopped walking, turned to face him. "Look," I said, my voice firm. I said, "Ill help. But you're not getting in my car." He paused, and just for a split second the mask slipped. I saw it in his eyes, how the friendliness drained out. Something cold flickered there. Disappointment, maybe. Or rage. "Fine," he muttered, backing off. Lena and I bolted the rest of the way to my car, got in, locked the doors. My fingers trembled as I jammed the key into the ignition. "What the hell was that?" Lena whispered. Her hands were shaking. "I don't know," I said. My voice cracked. "But let's just drive up front, just to see." I pulled out slowly, looping around to the front row. When we got close, what we saw made the blood drain from my face. The guy who'd followed us, he was running, sprinting back toward the silver sedan. The second he reached it, the other two slammed the hood shut, jumped in and fired up the engine like it had been running the whole time. No jumper cables, no car trouble. They peeled out of the lot in seconds. Gone. I pulled into an empty space, heart pounding so hard it felt like it would burst. My hands were slick on the wheel. I tried calling my boyfriend. No answer. "Should we call the cops?" Lena asked, barely above a whisper. I stared at my phone. Everything inside me said yes, but I didn't. I still don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want to sound paranoid. Maybe because I didn't want to be the dramatic girl who calls 911 over a weird guy. But I should be. A few weeks later, we were sprawled on Lena's couch, watching the 6:00 news with her roommate. A segment came on. An attempted kidnapping at the Binstone Walmart is under investigation tonight. Suspects posing as stranded motorists approached two women in the parking lot. Lena sat bolt upright. My stomach dropped. "That was them," I whispered. Lena didn't move, just stared at the screen, jaw clenched. "That was them. I haven't gone to that side of town since, not alone. If I need to hit a Walmart, I drag my fiancé along, no matter how small the errand. And I never offer help to anyone in a parking lot anymore, because monsters don't always wear masks. Sometimes they smile, sometimes they're charming, sometimes they're standing just 15 feet from the entrance waiting for you to let your guard down. Idle hands. Now I get what my mom meant. I didn't even want to go out that day." It had been a long, sticky day, the kind of southern summer heat that clings to your skin, makes you sweat just walking out to the mailbox. I'd graduated high school 2 months ago, but with no job and no college classes till fall, I was stuck in that awkward in-between. Technically an adult, but still eating my mom's groceries and sleeping in the same twin bed I had since middle school. It was just after 9 p.m. when Lena rolled up. She was a couple years older, 19 going on 30, with her beat-up Corolla and a tendency to show up without warning. "We should hit Brent's for snacks or something," she said, flopping down on my bed like she lived there. "I need trash bags anyway." I gave her a look. "You drove all the way out here? For trash bags?" She smirked, pulled a pillow under her head. "Nah, I'm bored and you're the only person I can stand right now. Trash bags are just the excuse." I laughed. When I asked my mom if we could run to Walmart, I expected a lecture, but instead she surprised me. "Just there and back," she said, eyes narrowing like she could already see trouble coming. "You're both technically adults now, but that don't make you bulletproof. Be safe." "We will," we said, and we meant it. But Walmart at night, it's got this weird energy. Not dangerous exactly, just off. The kind of place where the fluorescent lights feel too bright and everything hums like it's working too hard. Shelves half-stocked, employees zoning out, and shoppers who either look half asleep or way too awake. Lena parked near the garden center. It was already closed. "Quieter over here," she shrugged. We grabbed the trash bags quick enough, but instead of leaving, we lingered. Makeup aisle, Halloween clearance, then electronics, just talking and laughing and wasting time. It felt normal until it didn't. We were in line to check out when Lena leaned in, her voice low and tight. "You see that guy by self-checkout?" I glanced. A guy in a black hoodie was standing near the soda coolers, not shopping, just loitering, watching. "What about him?" I asked. "He said hey to me earlier, in the cleaning aisle. Gave me this weird smile. Not creepy at first, but I don't know. It didn't feel right." I looked again. He was staring dead at us now, eyes locked. No smile, no blink. My stomach turned cold. We paid and left fast, plastic bag rustling in one hand, receipt in the other. Outside, the lot was nearly empty, just a few cars and the usual cluster by the loading dock. That's when we saw him. Same hoodie guy now by a beat-up silver sedan 2 rows over. And he wasn't alone. A tall, bald dude in a faded basketball jersey leaned against the hood. Another guy, skinny with a cigarette, stood at the trunk, smoke curling up like a warning. Lena beeped the car unlocked. "Don't get in yet," she murmured. We hovered by the doors, pretending to scroll on her phone. The 3 of them kept glancing over, laughing, whispering. The bald one pointed at us like we were some kind of joke. "Let's just wait till they go," I muttered. But they didn't. They piled into the car, engine starting with a rough rattle. Then they circled the lot, slow, windows rolling down just enough for one of them to leer. Hoodie guy mouthed something at us. I didn't want to guess what. That was it. Lena yanked open the door, chucked the trash bags into the back, and we were gone, tires screeching faintly as she backed out and gunned it toward the exit. The sedan followed. They're behind us, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I know, Lena replied, her hands tight on the wheel. We flew down Brenner Road, one of those two-lane cuts through town with nothing but dark storefronts, flickering signs, and a single blinking traffic light ahead. Red, red, red. I glanced behind us. Still there. They're speeding up, I said, my voice tight. I'm not going home with them behind us. Lena's voice cracked slightly, but her grip on the steering wheel was stone. No way I'm letting them see where I live. She floored it, 60 and a 35. They kept pace, never hesitating. My heart hammered like it was trying to punch through my chest. Try to lose them, I whispered. Just drive. She took a sharp right onto Sutter Lane, a neighborhood street lined with dark windows and porch lights. Another turn, then another. Still with us. Then somehow they sped ahead, past us on the left. One of them, Jersey guy, halfway out the window, waving and grinning like we were playing tag, like it was all some messed up game. They cut in front, swerved into an empty church lot, spun a half circle, and locked in behind us again, headlights blazing. I clenched my fists so hard my nails bit into my palms. We need somewhere public, I said, checking my phone with shaking fingers. Somewhere with people. Store, Lena snapped, eyes wild but focused. Uncle Roy's, that weird one on decline. No gas, but always open late. Just a fluorescent lit shack where people bought scratch-offs, smokes, and dusty energy drinks. It was something. She didn't bother parking straight, just whipped into the lot, curved around the back, and slammed it into park. A man stood by the back door stacking crates, beard, flannel shirt, older. We're being followed, Lena shouted, jumping out. Please, please help. He dropped the crate instantly and came toward us, eyes narrowing. Inside. Now. The store smelled like bleach and old donuts. We ducked in through the back hallway and split. I dove behind the tall freezer near the alcohol aisle, cold air leaking through the seals, numbing my legs. Lena veered left, disappearing behind the deli counter. There was a young woman behind it. Early 20s, Hispanic, ponytail and apron. She didn't flinch when Lena dropped beside her, breathing hard. Just looked down, saw the fear in Lena's eyes, and gave a single nod. Then the front door chimed. Footsteps on the dirty linoleum, heavy, unhurried. Jersey guy wandered the aisles like he belonged there, like he was just grabbing a six-pack. I heard him mutter something to the others. Footsteps, slow, closer. He paused by the beer cooler, my cooler. My breath caught. I didn't dare move. Couldn't even blink. Hey, he said suddenly, voice raised. You seen two girls come in here? The voice that answered was calm, solid. The man from outside. Yeah, they're my nieces helping me restock in back. A pause. You sure? Jersey guy asked. Real sure. Another pause. Cold silence. Then footsteps, retreating. The chime of the front door again. We didn't move. Minutes passed before the back door creaked open and the man appeared again. They're gone, he said. Told him I was family. That shut it down real quick. My legs were jelly when I stood. The deli girl came out and handed us 2 bottled waters like it was nothing. They come in all the time, she said quietly, always saying nasty stuff. Think I don't understand, but I do. We stayed another 15 minutes, pacing, trembling, sipping the water like it was medicine. Lena tried calling her boyfriend, hands shaking so bad she kept hitting the wrong button. I just stood at the window, staring into the dark, convinced they were waiting just beyond the streetlights. Eventually, we drove home. Silent, dazed. We told my mom we got caught in traffic, talked too long, left the worst parts out. But for days after, I kept glancing over my shoulder, locking every door, wondering what would have happened if Uncle Roy's hadn't been open, if that man and that woman hadn't been there. I never went back to that Walmart again, because horror doesn't always look like ghosts or shadows under your bed. Sometimes it wears a hoodie, leans out a window, smiles too wide, and follows you down a quiet street, and all you wanted was trash bags.